Okay, welcome back, students. So, with connection to our previous lecture, so today we are going to see the next problem in our repeated joints. So, let us go directly into the problem. So, the bracket as shown in the figure is to carry a load of 45 kilonewton. Determine the size of the rivet if the shear stress is not to exceed 40 megapascal. So, assume the rivets of the same size. They have given only two data. One is the load which is acting on the riveted joint, which is 45 kilonewton, and they have given the permissible shear stress as 40 megapascal. So all other things all available in our diagram practice. So you can see this is what it is very easily understood from a particular center of gravity. The load is available at a distance of 500 mm, hence it is called as an eccentricity load. Okay, the distance between the each rivets and the distance and the total length, everything is provided in this diagram. To start with the particular problem, we should be able to understand how to identify the direct shear load as well as the secondary shear load. If you try to identify that, the problem is very easy. ரொம்ப சிம்பிளாக சொல்லணும்னா இந்த ரிவிட் ஸ்ட்ரக்சரை பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் after identifying the problem, you try to identify அதாவது direct shear லோடையும் secondary shear லோடையும் கண்டுபிடிக்கிறதுக்கு பண்ணிட்டோம் அப்படின்னா the problem is very easy. So now let us move on to the problem. So as per the problem is given, the given data is the load is equal to 45 kilonewton, which is nothing but 45 into 10 power 3 Newton. They are given the permissible shear stress கொடுத்துருக்காங்க 40 megapascal, 40 Newton per mm square. Eccentricity 500 mm, number of rivet வந்து n. Okay, so இப்படி கொடுத்துருக்கிறதுல first I have made a numbering. So it is obviously to you, numbering வந்து it can be done in any manner. Okay, so here I have followed a certain strategy. See here 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. It is only for our purpose. Okay, as far as the previous problem மாதிரி நம்ம இங்கே என்ன பண்ணணும் அப்படின்னா, we need to find out what is the direct shear load, and we have to find out what is the secondary shear load on each rivet. Okay, so since the load is acting towards downwards, all direct shear load of each rivet will be only in downward direction. So that is what it has been marked here. You can see here PS, 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 and here PS, and here PS, and here PS. So the difference between the previous problem and this problem is, in previous problem the center of gravity is needed to be found out. Since there is no, it is not exactly in the center, so we try to find out the x bar and y bar with which both intersection gives me the center of the gravity. But what in here is the particular center of gravity is available since all are symmetric. You can see here, if I draw a line here and if I draw a line here, this 1 and 7 is symmetric to 3 and 9, and similarly this 7 and 9 is symmetric to 3 and 1. So this is what symmetric. About the axis, it is if it is same, we call it as a symmetric. So now let us come back to the how to identify the secondary shear load. Once the center of gravity is identified, you try to connect all the center of the rivets to the center of the gravity. Okay, that is what I have been done here. So let me tell only for a few rivets. See here, so this is a line. Let us have this as a G, center of gravity. From here I am connecting the rivet 1 center. The secondary shear load will be perpendicular to this particular line. The secondary shear load will be perpendicular to this particular line. This is for all the rivets. The line which is connected from center of gravity to the center of the rivet, the secondary shear load will be perpendicular to that particular rivet. Okay, and obviously I know that the angle between the direct shear load and the secondary shear load is nothing but theta. So this is for rivet 1, hence it is called as theta 1. Similarly, for all the cases I have marked as what is F, secondary shear load value, and what is the theta value. Let me tell for another rivet. Let us consider rivet number 3. So this is the center of the rivet. So now I have connected from there to here. I have been connected. So once I connected, so it should be in 90 degree, that is the secondary shear load, and the angle between the PS, which is nothing but direct shear load, and secondary shear load is nothing but the theta. Hence it is a rivet number 3, it is called as theta 3. I forgot to mention a few things in this particular diagram, which is nothing but this is L1, this is L2, this is L3, and this is L4, this is, sorry, L5 is not available, it is not there. This is L6, L7, L8 and L9. Okay. So, the from the point of rivet to the center of gravity, which is nothing but the, we call it as the length of the particular line. Okay. So, this is very important. Once we are able to identifying this direct shear load and secondary shear load with the help of the diagram, the problem is very easy. Now, let us go and find out the direct shear load and secondary shear load mathematically. We know that obviously formula, the formula is nothing but PS is equal to total load divided by number of rivet. So, which is nothing but 45 into 10 to the power 3 divided by 9, I am having the direct shear load. Okay. So, in order to find out the secondary shear load, I need to find out the turning moment due to eccentricity, which is nothing but total load into eccentricity value. The eccentricity value is 500, the total load is 45 into 10 to the power 3, hence I find out the turning moment. As I told you earlier, since all the rivets are symmetric, I can write L1 is equal to L3 is equal to L5, L7 is equal to L9, which is nothing but 100 square plus 120 square. So, now let us see what is 100 and what is 120. You can see here this length and this length would be 100. I am sorry, and this particular length would be 120. This is 100 and this is 120. Okay. So, you consider this is a triangle, then I can find out what is this length. So, since it is symmetric, the L1, L7, L9 and L3 will be equal. Okay. And what about the length of L4? L4 is nothing but 100. What about L6? It is nothing but 100. What about L2? It is 120. What about L8? Again it is 120. There is no length for L5. So, that is what I have been written here. You can see here L1 is equal to L3 is equal to L7 is equal to L9 is equal to square root of 100 square. So, it formulated a right angled triangle. So, this is my L1. So, this value is 100 and this value is 120. So, with which I have been found out with the trigonometry function square root of 100 square plus 120 square. I am finding out the length of L1, L3, L7, L9. And similarly, as I told earlier, L2 and L8 is equal to 120, L4 and L6 is equal to 100 mm. So, we know that previously we have seen this. We have to equate. Let me recollect what we have seen previously. You can see here the secondary shear loads are perpendicular to the radial distance from the center of gravity, which is nothing but we can write, that is the reason why we can write F2 divided by F1, which is equal to L2 by L1. So, I need to find out this F1. To find out this F1, what I am going to do is I am going to equate the turning moment produced due to the eccentricity into the particular shear force load, secondary shear force load created. So, I know the value of L1, L2, L3, L4, L6, L7, L8 and L9, and I know the value of L1 and I know the, so since I can find out the F1 value. So, once I found out this F1 value, I can use these formulas to find out all the remaining secondary shear load value. Okay. So, F4 divided by F1 is equal to L3 by L1. So, since I know all the L value and I know the value of F1, I can find out the unknown value F2, I can find out the unknown value F3, I can find out the unknown value F4. That is what been given here. Okay. So, since okay. So, by referring the diagram for the direct load and secondary load, the rivet number 3, 6 and 9 is heavily loaded. Let me go back to the diagram. So, since you can see here rivet number 3, rivet number 6 and rivet number 9 is very closer to the load which is applied, hence these 3 rivets will be loaded very heavily. So, hence it is enough for me. So, there is another reason why I have find out only F2 and F3 and F4, since you can see here, since L2 is equal to L8, so F2 will be equal to F8. Okay, and similarly you can see here F3 is equal to F1 is equal to F7 is equal to F9, hence I have found out 1. And similarly L4 is equal to L6, since F4 will be equal to F6. Okay, that is very important. Since the length are same, the value will be also same. So since the load is heavily available in Revit number 3, Revit number 6 and Revit number 9, it is enough to find out the angles between the direct load and secondary load for this particular Revit alone. We obviously know that. So this is actually, let us go back to the diagram. You can see this is a triangle. Okay, if I try to find out this angle, I can easily find out that particular theta. Okay, so that is what is happening here. See here, 100 divided by L3. We know that. Okay, so this is the actual L3 value. This is 100. This is center of gravity. This is Revit number 6, and this is a particular Revit number 3. So I know this particular value, I know the L3 value, then I can find out this particular theta by cos theta is equal to 100 divided by L3, so that I am finding the value of cos theta alone. Okay, so I can tell that since see the other Revit, it is symmetric 9. Since it is symmetric, I can write a resultant shear load at 3, which is equal to resultant shear load at 9. So we obviously know the formula as PS square plus Fs square plus 2 into PS Fs cos theta. So PS is nothing but direct shear load, Fs is nothing but secondary shear load of the particular Revit, and cos theta we have already found out the angle between the particular direct shear load and secondary load. We cannot find out the cos theta for 6 because hence it is available in 0. There is other method to find out the resultant what we have been followed in our previous problem, which is nothing but resultant shear load at Revit 6 is nothing but PS plus F6. That's all. Okay. By using this formula, I have substituted all the known values and I have found out the resultant value R3 is equal to R9 value. I consider this is a 1. As I told earlier, the resultant shear stress shear load on Revit 6 can be found out by this particular formula. I know the direct shear load and I know the secondary shear load at Revit number 6, hence I can find out the resultant shear load on Revit number 6. By comparing 1 and 2, you can see you can compare this 1 and 2. You can say that the resultant shear load at Revit number 3 and Revit number 9 is higher. So அதனால நான் என்ன பண்றேன் அப்படினா, I know the formula, the shear stress value is equal to resultant shear load divided by area. So in the formula substitute பண்றதுக்கு I am bringing this resultant load over here. So I know the formula for area, which is nothing but pi by 4 into d square. நான் ரொம்ப clear-ஆ சொல்றேன், this d is nothing but it is not the diameter of the Revit, it is the diameter of the Revit hole. Very, very important. It is the diameter of the Revit hole. So I know what is the permissible shear stress value which has been given in my problem. If I try to substitute, என்னால என்ன கண்டுபிடிக்க முடியும் அப்படினா diameter of the Revit hole கண்டுபிடிக்க முடியும். Okay, so அதுக்கப்புறம் நான் என்ன பண்ணலாம், I can go to the data book, page number 5.29 for corresponding diameter of the Revit hole. Diameter of the Revit is selected, which is nothing but d is equal to 27. So that is what asked in our problem. It is asked to find out the diameter of the Revit, or it is used to identify the dimensions of the Revit. Okay, I hope you understood. We can discuss in the other problem. Thank you.